Hey everyone, there's been a bit of a discussion on Oz Proto Crew lately about when to replace radiator hoses and how bad these clamps are. So I just thought I'd do a quick video with my opinion and the experiences on this vehicle that's done over 450,000 kilometers, a lot of these hoses and clamps, and a lot of examples we see, obviously specializing in Prados, the Prado Hospital workshop, what we see there. I think it's got a lot of credit because there's so many examples compared to one example. Maybe someone has had a bad example. Well, who did they let work on their vehicle? You know, what's happened there? I mean, you can't have thousands of vehicles where you've got one situation and then you just have one where all this weird stuff's going on and all these hoses are leaking and all this sort of thing. So we're going to run through a few reasons why perhaps those hoses leak and you can have some problems and some of the experiences. So yeah, just to confirm, I'll go and confirm how many kilometers this vehicle's done right now. 455,600, something like that, kilometers. So it's going to be on about 457 in no time by the time we get back to Melbourne, currently in Brisbane. So I'm just going to give you a little bit of background on these hoses. Now, look, traditionally, Falcons, Commodores and all the other cheap makes and models and the crappy rubber hoses, where sometimes we were changing radiator hoses at, 80,000 kilometers. That's like 20 years ago, right? Only 20 years ago. Hoses that are, I'll tell you what happens, right? So obviously it's to do with the quality of the materials that the engine and the cooling system's built from, right? So therefore rust and corrosion, the quality of the coolant, the water and the coolant products in the cooling system to help prevent that corrosion, and the quality, of course, of the hoses, which is part of the components we said originally, that the cooling system, the engine, it's part of the cooling system. So this alloy here, right, for example, quality alloy, quality hoses, quality clamps that are well engineered, and of course quality coolant, and therefore you just don't have any issues. But because of my old school experiences over the previous 20 years before, say, the last 10 years, you think hoses, they deteriorate. So these will be EPDM rubber, right? Google it, it's good stuff. Same as what the belt's made from. Now, I could be wrong. I'm assuming this, it doesn't say that on the hose, because of how good quality they are and how long they last. I did a video recently about when to replace hoses and said not to, because you're wasting your money. But I also say in just about every video, careful who you let work on your vehicle. Subscribe, turn the bell on. This is where you're going to get your education, save your money, keep your vehicle reliable, okay? You might disagree with some of it, but maybe that's just because you've had different experiences. But remember, you've had 1, 2 or 3. Oh, a mate of mine had this happen. Okay, well, that happened to one person. Well, I've got 1,000 customers of mine that had this happen. So you choose, do you want to rely on someone's comment that had a mate of his do this or that, or someone that specializes in this particular vehicle and engine and has thousands and thousands of experiences and examples, factual examples. So you choose. It seems obvious, doesn't it? But just careful, it's easy to get it's easy to get misguided by a comment, if you know what I mean. So what did I do? At 300,000 kilometers approximately, I went, because you know me, I'm always looking, what can I replace next in prevention? What's deteriorating here? Watch the videos. There's plenty of playlists there to do some catch up if you don't want to just randomly go through videos, all right? Check the playlists, find what subject interests you. I replaced the top hose and the bottom radiator hose. I was going to say no other hose. There was one other hose got replaced. The hose on the bottom of this tank that goes down to the bottom housing down there, right? I'll tell you why. Because once again, careful who you let work on the vehicle. I purchased this from, it was the highest kilometer, 120 I could find at the time, 196,000 kilometers back in 2014, early 14. I want to be ahead of the game, stay ahead of everyone else. So that means, yep, that's right. They towed a caravan around Australia. It worked hard. And in our 250,000 kilometers, let's say, ballpark, a lot of low range. So it's probably equivalent to 400,000 kilometers I've done, if you know what I mean. The engine hours, 50 Ks a day, engine running 8 hours, all this sort of thing. The low range, the hard work. For some point of its life, the bigger tyres, the 32s and stuff like that. Yep, did a bit of towing and all that sort of thing, but that's not what this is about. This is about the hoses. So back to the hoses. It's all important background though, so you understand the whole picture. So that's where I purchased it. It had a bit of warranty. It had a water pump leaking, amongst other things. Because guess what? 196k. They didn't do the BFE job. At that point in time, I hadn't invented the BFE job. Of course, therefore, the Toyota dealers couldn't have copied me, even if they wanted to. Some are, some aren't. Some don't even know. Some don't care. Some watch my videos, okay? And they listen and they learn, and they even make their own videos and turn it around and make it their own. And that's fine. I've got no issue with that. I don't really care what people do, as long as it doesn't upset other people. You can choose to let things upset you or not. It's your choice. And, you know, do whatever you want, as long as it doesn't upset other people. And as long as it's helping people keep their vehicles reliable and save money, that's my aim. I don't care, right? If they want to make it their own, make a video, and that's what you see and that helps you, happy days. I've done my part. Okay. Hoses. What did they do? When they did the water pump, right? There's a clamp on that hose down the bottom of the fan shroud, which a lot of you know about because you watch the videos. They busted the clip. You can't buy the clip separately. The hose was only 20 bucks, right? So I replaced the damn hose, and I thought, well, while I'm doing that, I might as well do the radiator hoses. So I grabbed, they were only about, at the time, again, about 20 bucks. I went, it's a no-brainer. I'll just change the hoses, prevention, right? So at 300,000 Ks, I put new radiator. Those 3 hoses are only hoses that have ever been changed. We'll get to all the other ones that are over there at 450K with the original clamps that have been off and on, right? But let's just, and this hose here, right, same thing. That's the original one right there. See, not leaking. You can see the scratch marks there where I've had the clamp off and put the hose tool under there, unstuck the hose and pulled the hose off, put it back on how it was without damaging the clamp, and it doesn't leak. They don't leak. We'll get to that in a minute. What did I learn from changing these hoses, right, at 300,000 Ks? Well, the old hoses, I gave them a good analysis, right? I looked at them, I stretched them, I pulled them, I put them in the vise, bent them around, and I worked out these things are bloody solid hoses, right? Where the old cars, what used to happen, used to get the corrosion on the alloy here because of the quality of the materials, the quality of the coolant, and the corrosion would start on the inside here. You'd get little leaks, it'd bulge up. It was just an absolute disaster, to be honest, right? And you had to replace housings to fix it. You could try and clean it up and that. You could scrape the corrosion off, but it just wasn't the same. If you wanted the best result, replace the hosing. I'm going to get the housing. I was going to give an example on the EA Falcons, EA, EB, ED. That was the thermostat housing up the top there. Thermostats were always a problem on those as well. Once again, they're not on this vehicle, so you don't change it. Really important to watch the videos. You're going to waste your time, effort, stress, doing all this work, pulling this stuff out to change things. It's not going to be that. Subject to the couple of times in 10,000 that it is, please watch the videos. Right. So that's what used to happen. And when you got the hoses off, because they bulged up here, they were stretched thin in this area about here because they had the bulges, so it's sort of, and you could really just feel it and put your finger, it's thin, yeah, it's going to get a hole or pin, and that's what they used to do. They used to get some little leaks as well, particularly on the smaller hoses, you know, these sort of smaller hoses here. And this was the original until while I was doing I did a radiator, once again, as prevention. It was not leaking at 400, what was it, 430, 440K that I changed it before the last big trip. We've got 2 big trips this year with this vehicle. And like I said, I'm always looking at what can I replace. I did the radiator and the fan hub. And we put oil in the other fan hub, and we've got a video on that, and it's sitting there for a spare. And when I pull this apart next time, I'm going to put it back on and see how that worked out for me, putting in an extra bottle of oil, good, bad, otherwise, right? The cooling system on this thing cruises at highway speed at 86 or 87 degrees. I don't think I've seen it go above 88 since I put that radiator and that fan in there. How good's that? Let's not go on to why engines crack pistons, and there's so many myriad of contributors that can contribute to the life of the engine, okay? If you follow my guide, it's not going to happen. Generally, you know, it's going to be 1 in less than 1,000 or even less, you know, I think that's being, you know, it's not going to be that many. It depends how well you follow it. Did you have the vehicle since new? You know, you picked it up with 300,000 Ks, then you followed it. Well, that's probably not going to work. So make sure you know about the crack piston fund. Back to the hoses, right? Important videos. 1 minute to go. I'm going to knock it off at 10 minutes, right? All around this engine bay. So you get my point. I learned that how good the hoses were. And from that time at 300,000, I said, hey, everybody, don't replace your hoses till further notice. I wish I hadn't replaced these ones because I can't say these have done 450K. but all the other little ones that are more likely to leak first have. Okay, so I can't stand those worm drive clamps. People over tighten them, they cut into the rubber. They're just not needed. If you use these correctly and you don't damage them, now if people damage them, that's going to be a game changer. Be careful who you let work on your vehicle. Use genuine hoses, genuine clamps. See, they've even got marks there for exactly how they're meant to go back on the vehicle. See all those marks? Can you see a leak there? Can you see a leak? Have a good look. That's not leaking. These don't leak. Where are some hoses? This one I replaced again. It was like 15, 20. I don't even know what it was. I'm doing a radiator. You know what? I'll replace that one, okay? Even the little ones like this that are down near the turbo that get hot under the exhaust there, they're not leaking. Right, there it is. You can see it there. They're ones that you probably should replace. If you're going to replace hoses, that's what you replace, okay? Because they've had a lot of heat. Anyway, my experience is use these clamps. These are great. They're Toyota engineered. Your vehicles are Toyota. That's what you purchase. Stick with genuine hoses, clamps, genuine procedures. You won't have a problem. Subscribe, turn the bell on. Catch you in the next one.